And even though this is considered a partial solar eclipse, it's really going to pack a punch. This is a time to bring up those defenses, to use that self-protective energy. If you're finding a repeating pattern of maybe overspending or doing something that ends up being a hardship or a mistake financially, this is the time to cut cord. Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I'm back with yet another super exciting extended 2-week forecast. And this one isn't just any forecast. This is your forecast for the partial solar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio and the first 2 weeks of the full-on eclipse season. We're already in the eclipse energy as you're watching this video, but it is building, it is becoming much more intense. And even though this is considered a partial solar eclipse, it's really going to pack a punch. The reason for this is because of what it's doing to the planet Venus. And before we get into all of that, we need to discuss what Venus actually represents in astrology so you have that foundational knowledge. So in astrology, Venus represents relationships, agreements, negotiations, that reciprocal energy between yourself and other people. It also represents material possessions. It has an association with finance and money. It has an association also with women specifically. It's the planet of joy. It's the planet of desire. It's the planet of experiences of material pleasure. It's the planet of sensuality and beauty and aesthetics. And all of these things are going to be subject to difficulty, to challenge, to change, and to loss potentially around the time of this eclipse, and including the few weeks before and after, because the eclipse energy does not just last only on the day of the eclipse. As you probably already know, the eclipse energy is long lasting. It's activated and reactivated over time. But right now we're at this focal point of this peak energy of the eclipse as it's coming exact. And so the reason Venus is going to be having so many problems is because, first and foremost, it's at its fall in the sign of Scorpio. The sign of Scorpio for Venus is not a nice placement. Venus does not have its necessary resources and support to express itself in the fullest, most beautiful, most beneficial way as a benefic planet. Venus in Scorpio can be very possessive. It can be very obsessive. It can be very jealous. It's an energy where there can be difficulties with finances. There can be difficulties with agreements and negotiations because everybody's in it to protect themselves. And so this Venusian energy in the sign of Scorpio is already not its best. It's not good for negotiations. It's not good for relationships and connections in a lot of ways. It's good for deepening and intensifying connections in terms of creating a really good emotional and psychological intimacy in partnership. But that intimacy can be taken way too far, and it can be taken to extremes. This is also with Venus in a conjunction with the sun, where it's considered combust. When a planet is combust, it burns away a lot of its more positive attributes, and it tends to accentuate or accelerate some of its more negative qualities. With Venus being a benefic, it typically doesn't have many negative qualities, but in the sign of Scorpio, as I mentioned before, it can be possessiveness, obsessiveness, jealousy, secrecy, the energy of wanting to protect oneself in an agreement or in a relationship, to protect one's resources rather than being generous or open with their spending or with their financial situation in some way. It can cause you to not make the best decisions when it comes to relationships, when it comes to finances, when it comes to issues pertaining to aesthetics and beauty, or to women or feminine energy in general. All of these things become more difficult when Venus is combust. It's not the best energy for those significations. We also have the South Node as part of this eclipse. Not only is an eclipse energy, which is a fated karmic energy that brings about major change and transformation in ways that are very synchronistic and very strange, but it's a South Node eclipse. The South Node represents a decrease. It represents moving away from something. It represents endings and separations, which is not a Venusian thing. Venus is about bringing things together. But in this position, in a Mars-ruled sign, there could be many separations occurring. Separations when it comes to severing contracts and agreements. Separations when it comes to important important connections or relationships in your life, separations from your resources, even maybe losses of money. That doesn't mean that every single person will have this. I'm speaking on a collective level. This could bring disruption, loss, difficulty, strangeness overall in the financial sector, in the energy of agreements and contracts and negotiations kind of on a bigger scale. And yes, of course, this can play out in your life. And so you're going to want to understand what that means for you when we get into the forecast for all 12 signs. But this is a very interesting energy. What it can do in a positive light is bring back old connections that were very deep, that ran beyond just surface level, because Venus is not surface level when it's in the sign of Scorpio. It wants deep intimacy. It wants true connection. It wants to understand other people at their core and to be understood at its core. Once that self-protective mechanism has been lowered, once that self-defense has been lowered, Venus and Scorpio bonds in a very true way, in a way that is just uncomparable to Venus and any of the other signs. And so it could bring back those bonds from the past or from past life situations. You can have very synchronistic occurrences that really help to deepen your connection in friendships, in close connections, and in romantic partnerships as well. And so that is one of the positive things. This would also be a really great time to kind of look at the past when it comes to your resources and the mistakes you've made with your finances, and to cut ties from those cycles once and for all. If you're finding a repeating pattern of maybe overspending or doing something that ends up being a hardship or a mistake financially, this is the time to cut cords. If you're dealing with something that's a big drain on your finances, this is a time to cut cords. If you're in a lot of debt, this is a time to cut cords. If you are in a contract that's draining you because it's imbalanced, this is a time to bring up those defenses, to use that self-protective energy to either renegotiate the contract or find a way to get out of it, because it's more possible at this time. So there's a lot that this is a really good energy for, but there's also a lot that it's not good for, which is going to be things that are maybe meant to increase your finances really in a grandiose way. This is going to bring a lot of disruption probably in the financial markets, which we've already been seeing. So you can only imagine what that could mean over the next few weeks. And so it's just not the easiest energy. And I just want to mention, for kind of picking this apart in your own chart, make sure you go ahead and download my Astrology PDF 101 or Astrology 101 PDF guide at the link down in the description below, and look up a few different things from this guide. It's absolutely free, so you have that as a resource, and you're going to want to look at the house that Venus and that the eclipse is going to be placed, right? So you're going to want to look at what house is this eclipse happening in your birth chart, and what are the significations of that house. You're also going to want to be looking at planets in the fixed signs. So which planets do you have in the fixed signs, and what do those planets rule in terms of their general energies, which you'll find in the PDF guide. You'll also want to look at what houses those planets rule based on the sign that they rule and the house that those signs occupy. Again, you'll find that information in the Astrology 101 PDF guide. And all of those topics, all of those significations, if you list them out, those are going to become more difficult, and you're going to have challenging changes that are going to be like a whirlwind, where it's like too much all at once, or it's like a very sudden change that's not expected, or that's maybe not welcome. But the end result is likely to be the change that you needed. If it's not the change that you desired, it'll still be the change in the end that you're kind of like, well, all right, I didn't want that, but I actually recognize and understand that in the end, I kind of needed that. The other thing you're going to want to look at are planets in water signs. And so the water signs are are Scorpio, which Scorpio is going to be a mixed energy, and also Pisces and Cancer. And so especially if you have planets in Pisces and in Cancer, this eclipse will be enshrined to those planets by sign and potentially also by degree. And so you're going to want to look at that as energies where you're going to have positive changes and really synchronistic, really karmic experiences that feel really good in the moment and that have really positive results from the get-go. The other thing that you're going to want to look at is the signs that Venus rules in your birth chart. And so you're going to want to look at the 2 houses that are occupied by Taurus and by Libra. And then you're going to want to look at, in the PDF guide, the significations of those houses. Those are 2 areas that are also going to be subject to karmic and synchronistic change. And so by doing this and looking at this holistically based on what I've just described, in addition to listening to your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign in this forecast, you're going to get a very deep, very holistic, very detailed overview of what to expect during this eclipse. And so so make sure that you download that. And also, if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an important astrology update. I do a new tutorial or forecast every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So you don't want to miss that, especially if you're interested in keeping up with what's going on with the planets and also learning astrology for yourself, because that's what I specialize in. All right, so let's kind of move on to the big energies for the next 2 weeks in addition to this eclipse, and then we'll get into that all signs forecast that I know you guys are waiting for here. First and foremost, we have obviously the eclipse energy. Shortly after that, Jupiter is going to be re-entering the sign of Pisces for just a couple of months. It'll be there through December, and then it'll move back into Aries, and it'll stay in Aries until May. And so if you haven't already done so, I have a video on Jupiter and Aries, which is the big energy that will be coming up then. But this Jupiter and re-entering Pisces, it's going to come back into a close but not exact conjunction with Neptune. And so this is where we get into that energy once again where everybody has really high hopes. They're very overly optimistic about what's going on kind of globally, what's going on in the general sphere of things, and also what's going on in their personal lives in the area that's occupied by the sign of Pisces in their birth chart. And so it's good because Jupiter is in its home sign and Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces as well. And so you will have a lot of opportunity that can come up for you where your dreams really can come true. But on the flip side, you might be overly impressionable and overly idealistic about what can happen and about the outcomes of certain situations. And so you do want to make note of that and just be aware of that as well. It's kind of hard with this energy to discern what is a great opportunity and where you're probably overshooting or you're not going to be able to live up to that potential, or that potential opportunity might not live up to your expectations. And so that's where we kind of have difficulty. That being said though, it's a great energy. I mean, good things will happen. Even if they don't meet your expectations or exceed them, it's going to be really good stuff that can happen in that energy for the most part. And so I don't want you to be too worried about that. The main issue with it this time around though is that it's activating that Mars square to Neptune that will be going on and off during the Mars retrograde. We talked about that in the last video. And so you want to just be aware that you might jump the gun on something because it feels like a good opportunity or because of that idealistic energy, but it's probably not what you think it is, especially with that Mars retrograde in the mix. The other thing that's going on here is that there's going to be a major eclipse activation from October 2nd to October 7th. And so the eclipse happens on the 25th of October, and then there's an activation right in between the eclipses of both of the eclipses. And that's going to be because Venus will conjunct the South Node in the sign of Scorpio. It'll oppose Uranus. That's going to be a period of massive and rapid change that'll be set in motion probably around the eclipse, but it'll really start to take off around that time. Mercury will be doing the same. It's a big part of the total lunar eclipse that's going to be in the sign of Taurus that we'll talk about here in 2 weeks. And then the Sun conjunct the South Node, so that's going to be a big energy. And then Mercury will go Cazimi on November 8th. And so that's the day of that next eclipse. That's going to be a total blood moon lunar eclipse. So this is kind of like a period where a lot of the change, a lot of what you've been feeling and experiencing, a lot of this stuff that's been kind of like hidden or eclipsed, where it's like, I know something's happening here, but it hasn't quite played out yet. That's usually a big eclipse theme for people. Or it could be that you think one thing is happening, and then around this time from November 2nd to the 7th, it all changes. It all goes haywire, and all of a sudden things are upside down and backwards, and it's not what you set in motion or what you intended to set in motion, but you just have to kind of run with it. This is a fate energy, and this is something that was set up to occur prior to you even incarnating in this lifetime from the vantage point of the North and South nodes and their interpretations. And so it's kind of one of those energies where you can do what you can to roll with the energy, but you do have to roll with the energy. What you get to choose is how you react or respond, or what you do with the circumstances as they're coming up, as they're shifting things for you, as you're getting those messages, as you're getting those signs, as you're paying close attention to what's coming up for you and following along with those strange urges and sensations, those strange chance encounters. Make note of these things because they're trying to tell you something. All right, so that being said, let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning of course with Aries and with Aries rising. So for Aries and for Aries rising, you know, they say that forewarned is forearmed, and so my forewarning to you is that there could be a disruption, a change, an unexpected or unforeseen circumstance that throws you for a loop when it comes to your finances. On the flip side of things, you know, with this eclipse happening in your 8th house with Venus in the mix, this could be a time to sever your ties with 8th house topics of debts, of tax issues, if that's something that you've been struggling with. This could be you separating yourself maybe from a resource partnership or your partner's resources in some way, so you can pursue creating money, creating wealth more independently through your own volition, through your own hard work, through your own business, or through your own career path, or through your own means. This could also be potentially a loss or disruption to your partner's finances that forces you to do that on kind of like the more negative side of things, but this could also just be that they're changing something, right? So this could be like your partner letting go of an old financial path and you embracing something new around the same time. This could definitely bring an end to a big contract or agreement that is associated with like a debt or joint finances or taxes or inheritance, even like a will or a living trust or something along those lines. It could be that you need to sever it and you need to start fresh, or that you need to let go of certain portions of it, or maybe that you need to even disinherit someone. That could be something for some people too. And although it might be difficult to have to do that in the moment, in the end, it looks like it'll probably be for the best. This is a time where there could be a payout from your past too. So on the flip side of this, there could be a payout from your past, but there could be strings attached, or it might not be exactly what you thought it was going to be, just because that Venusian energy is so unsupported as a part of this configuration. And so it's kind of like you're waiting on an insurance payout, you're waiting on a payout from an investment, you're waiting to cash in on something. And now that you're doing it, the timing was a little weird, or there was just something that came up where it didn't turn out exactly like what you wanted, but you still got paid, right? And so that could be a big part of this energy too. This is also a time where there could be potentially some fears, some anxieties, some deep-seated issues that come up from your past when it comes to betrayal and loyalty in relationships specifically. And so this is a time where you're going to be demanding true loyalty, true intimacy in your connections across the board, not just in romantic partnerships, but overall. And, this could be a time where that could be a little bit more of an issue, or there could be like a past situation that's coming up and repeating itself in a new way, tied to betrayal from a partner, or tied to fears, especially around betrayal from a partner. It doesn't necessarily mean your partner will betray you. It just means that there's something that comes up that's triggering, and you have to heal through it and let go of it once and for all. And that's what's going on for Aries. For Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus, this energy is happening in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships and partnerships and contracts and negotiations and agreements. It's also the house of open enemies. And so there could be a combination of all of these things coming up for you over the course of these next couple of weeks, especially around the time of the solar eclipse on October 25th. I will say that you've been going through a lot of change already. This could be where you're just kind of cutting cords and letting go of some dead weight with like past relationships, that it's just bringing stuff up. There's like something karmic or something psychological tied to your past experiences in relationships that's holding you back from fully embracing what you truly need, want, and desire in those relationships, or in your current relationships, I should say. But also that might be holding you back from making the change that you need to make to be independent, to be free, to be exactly who you were meant to be. You're in the process of shedding your old skin and shedding away anything that's tied to other people's expectations of who you should be rather than who you truly are. And so this is especially true during the time of this eclipse. It could be that you have a partner that maybe is, weighing you down, or like being kind of negative about the changes that you want to make and the path that you need to go on. And you maybe need to have a talk with them. Maybe you need to clear up that energy. Maybe you need to let go of that cycle. This is also a time where there could be potential interrelational issues involving your work, your career path, a boss, a superior, a business partner, something along those lines, where there's something going on here that's going to need to be dealt with that'll come up more strongly during the lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. But there's the beginning stages, the beginning energies of it are here. I will say that this is a really great time for you to revisit intimate partnerships from the past, or to deepen your intimacy within a current partnership by, again, revisiting old memories, revisiting something that you've already done together. Maybe, planning a second honeymoon, or just reflecting on your wedding day, or a really fond memory or a really good time in your life, looking through, your albums and stuff like that together. This could be a time of like true intimacy. But if there's not true intimacy in the partnership, this is where things might get a little dicey and a little, it could be that it's just time to let it go. And that doesn't necessarily have to apply to your romantic partnerships. If you can't trust your business partner, if you can't trust your boss, if you can't trust your best friend, then there's something here that's going to be coming up that you're going to need to address. And it's going to be a good thing in the end, even if it's difficult in the moment. For Gemini and for Gemini rising. So for Gemini, this energy with the new moon is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. And so all of these themes are going to be up for change and disruption, and maybe some new energies, and also a big purge and release of the old energies around the time of this solar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. And so first and foremost, this would not be the best time to do something medical in the way of improving aesthetics. So like, for example, like a plastic surgery or something like that for a lot of Gemini rising people in particular, or to just change your aesthetics in general. But especially if it's like a medical thing, if it's something that you can put off, then this would be, a time to put it off. I mean, in general, around eclipses, you don't want to necessarily do those types of things because the outcomes are not going to be what you expect them to be. But with this particular eclipse, because Venus is in such a difficult position, it's in your 6th house of health, I would just want to caution about that. The other things that are going on here, though, you might have an old issue, especially a psychological or emotional issue tied to your employees or your coworkers or people that you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis through your work or through your the service that you do. And this could be something where it's going to be a little bit emotionally difficult in the moment, but it's something that you actually really need to address and you need to let go of. So it's kind of like letting go of past karma in the workplace, letting go of past karma in your work too. It could even just be something like a work-related project that's causing an extreme imbalance. And you realize that this is not worth your time, and you might need to just let that go and move on to something else so you can get the rest and the reprieve and that little vacation maybe even that you deserve. And so that could be a part of it too. There could definitely be integrity issues in the workplace that come up. There could definitely be issues that come up involving like a need to let go of something in order to create homeostasis in the body, like physically. So it's like letting go of certain foods or doing some sort of detox, very literally letting go of something physical in the body, maybe through the kidneys with that Venusian energy. I mean, it really depends on your individual situation, but it's almost as if you're cutting back on something. And with Venus, it could even be something like as simple as cutting back sugar or letting go of sugar. Venus rules sugar. Sweet tooth, right? And so it's kind of like getting rid of your sweet tooth, and it's difficult in the moment, but in the end, it's a good thing, and it actually causes you to feel a lot better. So that's what's going on for Gemini. Okay, and then for Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancers, this is actually going to be impacting you a little bit more positively. I kind of mentioned this at the beginning when I was talking about which planets in which signs would be more positive versus more difficult when it comes to the synchronistic and karmic changes that are coming up for you. And you're going to have something from your past coming back around, involving children, involving romance, involving your sexuality or, you know, sexual experiences in general. And that could actually be a good thing. It's kind of like you have to let go of some hangups around these things in order to have a better time, right? To have more enjoyment, to experience more pleasure. And when it comes to the other kind of significations of that fifth house energy, this could just be you reconnecting with a deep and intense passion for something. You might have trouble fully connecting to it at first because there's something that's being eclipsed at and before and around the time of the eclipse, but it'll open up to you over time and with, you know, repeated exposure and experience and all of that. And when it comes to like energy around your children, this could be something coming up from your past, like a past trauma that you've experienced that maybe you've been projecting onto your children that you realize that you need to let go of, and that could actually be a really positive thing. There could be a blockage to your relationship with your children and a blockage to the intimacy psychologically and emotionally that you want to create with your children. And this could actually be a point where you're able to very slowly but surely work on it, let it go, break through any blockages, and actually create the relationship that you desire. For Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leo, this energy of the new moon in the sign of Scorpio, the eclipse, is happening in your fourth house, which is the house of home, family, property, real estate. It's your ancestry and your roots. For Leos in particular, this is going to be a lot more difficult than it will be for some of the other signs because Leo is a fixed sign. I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, some of the different signs that would have more trouble, and all of the fixed signs, you're not alone in that. All of the fixed signs are going to be having a little bit more difficulty with this energy. But with Leo in particular, especially if you're a Leo sun, moon, or rising at the beginning or middle degrees, so I would say anywhere from 0 to 20 degrees, you're going to be feeling this the most, and you're going to be feeling the challenging side of Venus the most from 0 to 5 degrees. And so this could bring difficulties and challenges in relationships with your family specifically. This could also bring the need to let go of some sort of baggage or karma or ancestral energy, like an ancestral wound or something that's been carried over for generations from your family, and to let go of your connection to that. This could be you having to cut ties with a family relationship, very literally. This could be you having to let go of something involving your home, or like a home renovation or a project to beautify your home. If you start something like that right now, it might be a little bit more difficult for you. And so this could be a time to maybe let go of something like that, or to let go of something in your home that's making it like unattractive or unappealing, or that's keeping you off balance, that's not allowing you to have that homeostasis that you need. This could be a time where you have to very literally end a contract or an agreement involving your home. And so it could be having to cut ties with like a mortgage or a rental agreement or something along those lines. Or if you own property outside of just your home, this could be something that comes up where maybe you have an investment property and one of your tenants is like wanting to break their contract, break their agreement. And that could be really difficult for you at that time and in that moment. But in the end, it's going to be for the best, because that's going to cause more hardship if you drag it on. on than is really what's necessary. That's what it looks like, especially with the Saturn energy. It's like, this is going to be ongoing forever. Maybe it's already been ongoing forever and you're just like, okay, whatever, I'm done. I give up, let's go. And that could be part of this too. But this is going to be changing you on a personal level. You're going to have very synchronistic, very karmic situations that come up for you on a one-on-one level in relationships, on a personal level, and also in your work and in your career. There might be new opportunities coming up for you, but there's blockages coming from your roots, your home, family, property, your relationships with your family. And there's also blockages coming through relationships in general that are trying to prevent you from going too hard, too fast into a new direction with your career. And we'll talk about that a lot more next in the next 2-week forecast, which will be on the total lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus, because that's really where you're going to be getting a bigger shakeup career-wise. Okay, and then for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for Virgo, this new moon in Scorpio is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication, community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, your extended family, short distance travel, education, especially like reading and writing, it's marketing, it's so many different things that are involved in our day-to-day lives and experiences, especially in this day and age. And this is an area where honestly, it's not so bad for Virgos. The one area where I think that you might have difficulty is communication in the workplace. That's where I'll give you your forewarning. Forewarned is forearmed, right? Is that there could be difficulties and integrity issues that come up around communication in the workplace. And it's something that you're going to have to kind of deal with and address, where you might have to let go of something. You might have to let go of an opinion or a dispute and just kind of like move on from it in order to keep peace. But really, this is nice for Virgos. And so this is actually going to be trining your ascendant sun or moon, especially if your ascendant sun or moon is anywhere from 0 to 20 degrees, really. You're going to be having the positive side of this in a lot of different ways. This could be you bringing up something from the past to deepen your relationship or your communication with a partner. This could also be you potentially having like a new partnership, but it feels like an old connection. It feels like somebody from your past that comes up through communication, like maybe through like a text message or an app or something like that. Or maybe it's somebody you meet in your neighborhood, in your immediate community, and you're like, wow, this feels important. This feels special in some way. This feels different. And that could be a romantic connection, or it could be something else entirely. This could be a great time for you to revisit old educational pursuits, not just from this lifetime from the past, but maybe something that you dabbled with in a previous lifetime that it just feels familiar to you in some way, and it comes up in a very synchronistic way as well. This is going to be a really great time for deepening intimacy and communication and having just very honest communication. And if people in your life are not really open to that honesty and open to that connection, then it'll just fall away really easily around this time. So yeah, and this could also be you kind of going back and revisiting a place that you've traveled to in the past in order to maybe break something, break ties with it, or let go of something once and for all. It's kind of like, I need to go there one last time and then just be done with it. And that could actually be a very empowering and very transformative experience for you. Okay, and then for Libra and for Libra rising. So this new moon is happening in your 2nd house, which is the house of money. And so as I've been saying along this forecast, forewarned is forearmed. And so my forewarning for you, Libra, is that there's going to be some sort of change to your financial situation coming up. It's very likely that there could be something that comes up from the past involving maybe a luxury expenditure or something that you've spent money on in the past that kind of sucks away more of your money during this time, and you're like, all right, I'm done and I'm going to cut ties with this. I don't want it anymore. This could be that you have to let go of an old financial pursuit or investment, and you're like, all right, I'm getting rid of this thing once and for all. I'm moving on to something different. This could be you cutting ties very literally with like a career path or a job that is just not living up to your material needs and expectations and the really what you can achieve financially. And so you kind of recognize that, and maybe you're going in a different direction. This could also be a financial disruption on both sides. It could be that your partner's finances are disrupted. There's disruptions due to like tax issues or issues involving inheritance, issues involving debt, issues involving like insurance payouts and things like that. That could be an issue as well. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind and make note of that. This is not a good time to dive into something new financially unless it's happening organically. Like if there's something going on in the ethers and you're like, the signs, the synchronicities, this is just happening, I can't really do anything about it, then roll with those circumstances and pay close attention to what's going on and follow along with that. You get to choose how you respond to the situation. But if the circumstances are coming up that are changing your finances and you're like, I don't know what to do about this, I don't like it, don't resist it. Just allow it to unfold and see what you can do with that energy, because that's going to be a better approach than trying to fight against it at this time. There could be old financial opportunities, by the way, that come back around for you. And especially in partnership or with connections to other people, be a little wary of these because they're not fully supported at this time. Although you can make some money, although these things can help you in some way, and maybe it will be good to revisit this and to kind of close it out. It's not going to be like the most abundant, prosperous thing in the entire universe, most likely, but it will be beneficial. So that is what I have for Libra. All right, and for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, this new moon partial solar eclipse is in your sign. That means your entire life is subject to change. This is going to be a major purge, a major release of energy, a major letting go of things that are no longer serving you across the board on all levels. So you can move into something brand new. This could also be you really needing to focus a little less on yourself and on your own maybe notoriety or your own recognition or your own sense of balance or pleasure or joy or homeostasis even, in favor of the needs of somebody else who's really important to you in your life. This could be a major milestone or a major step in those relationships, but first you need to move on. You need to let go of something. This could also be very literally some changes that are being set in motion involving your home, family, property, real estate, and a connection with somebody else or a contract involving those themes. And again, there's something that you have to let go of in terms of your own self-interest. It's kind of like you're trying to protect yourself a little too much, and it's kind of going to blow the whole thing for you if you're not focusing on what's really important. And right now, what's really important, of course, you're important. And of course, you need to, practice self-care and you need to take care of your needs. But what's really important right now are your relationships, your partnerships, the people in your life that support you, that right now you need to help support as well. And so that's going to be a big part of this energy. For Scorpio, for Scorpio rising, I would say that, in terms of the Venus energy, it could be you letting go also of something very like Venusian. It could be like purging an old wardrobe or an old aesthetic, or like wanting to let go of the way that you used to look and feel even, and wanting to bring in something new. So it's kind of like you have to let go of it. So it's like when you clean out your closet because you want to get a new wardrobe, you want to buy new clothes, you're sick of feeling all like frumpy or, having holes in your clothes or whatever. And so you purge your old wardrobe in order to make space for something new. That's very literally what this energy is for everything in your life, for your career, for your relationships, for your home, family, property, real estate, those areas, but also for you personally. It's like on a personal level, what do you need to let go of to feel more beautiful, to feel more attractive, to feel more vibrant? What do you need to let go of to feel better physically in terms of your health? What do you need to let go of in order to focus on those other areas of your life that are not so self-focused, that are not just about you? And so all of these things are going to be coming into play for Scorpio over this time period. And in general, you could just have all sorts of crazy changes for Scorpio. Expect the unexpected. Know that there's going to be signs and synchronicities that are going to be pulling you in new directions. Some of them will feel like they're your choice, but you'll know deep down that they're not. And others will just be happening to you. And so roll with the circumstances. Understand that that whatever's happening, you have control over your perspective on the situation. You have control over how you take hold of the energy and what you do with it. But the circumstances are going to be coming up kind of on their own right now, because this is something that has happened or has been set in motion for you, especially prior to your incarnation. And it's part of your path. It's part of the next stage in your soul's evolution. And so, you know, even if it's difficult in the moment, it serves a purpose, and you'll see that especially after all of these things manifest, because right now there's something blocked. It's like, you know, something's about to change, you know, you're going in a new direction, but you can't see it clearly, and something about that's going to change even if you think you know. Okay, and then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. So for Sagittarius, this is happening in your 12th house, which is the house of endings, purging, letting go. This is a time for you to let go of anything and everything that no longer serves you. It's already a big purge energy. You know, Scorpio is very good with that. But it's kind of like letting go of all your old karma, all your old situations, all of the old cycles that are keeping you stuck in patterns and in habits and in routines. This could also be very literally you letting go of like a person or a connection to a person in your life, or a connection to a person from your past. It could be even someone who's no longer with you. Like that could be something too, with that Scorpio energy, with that 12th house energy. Or it could be letting go of like a past life connection to something that's dragging you down and holding you back from making the changes that you need to make when it comes to your work, when it comes to your health, when it comes to having more freedom and excitement in your day-to-day reality. This is a time where that's going to be a central focus. For the most part, the second eclipse is not going to be as, well, it might be a little challenging, but there's some good stuff going on here. This first eclipse, it's going to have you feeling like you need to hibernate, and you're going to go through a major internal and subjective kind of reset. This is where your subconscious reality will be coming online much more vividly. And so pay attention to dreams, especially dreams that feel very vivid and very important, because you're going to get some messages about what you need to let go of and what's coming up for you into the future. For Capricorn and for Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, this new moon is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, networks, group associations, and people that you surround yourself with by choice. This is not the worst energy for Capricorn, I should say, and the next eclipse won't be either. And so this is actually potentially you letting go of an old friendship once and for all, and it's going to just kind of fall away really easily, or like an old connection or an old group association. Like maybe you're the leader of a club, or you're part of a membership or an organization, and it's been kind of dragging you down and weighing on you. Your heart's not connected to it. It's not exciting for you anymore. It's not lighting you up in terms of your passions. And so you just decide that you're going to get rid of it. And maybe it's something that you thought was going to be a big ordeal, but it flows away pretty easily. This could also be you reconnecting to friends that you have deep, really intimate, really loyal, trustworthy connections with from your past. Or this could be you connecting with new friendships that feel really loyal, that feel really trustworthy. Just know that if it's a past connection coming back around, or if it's a new connection, there could still be some problems, because Venus is going to be a little bit wonky here. It's, as I mentioned at the start of this video, it's in its fall, it's combust, you know, with the South Node too. There's something here that you have to let go of in order to move forward, or in order to embrace the new relationship or that reconnection with somebody. Or it could even be that the reconnection comes back up, so you can kind of close the door on that once and for all. With that friendship, this would actually be a really great time to deepen your intimacy and connection with other people on that one-on-one level. That would be really great with this energy. But there is something here also about just letting go of caring about what other people think. Like, what do your friends think about what you're doing? Don't care. What does society think about what you're doing? Don't care. You know, it's kind of like purging that need to be liked by everyone or to be accepted by everyone, because what you're doing is going to be a little different and a little wild, especially as we come into the full moon energy, the total blood moon eclipse. And so it's kind of like letting that go. Like, I don't care what other people think about what I'm doing anymore. And that's great. And so that's what's going on for Capricorn. For Aquarius and for Aquarius rising. So for Aquarius, this energy is happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career and public reputation. There could be a difficult situation that comes up for you involving a boss or a superior or somebody who's in a position of power and authority. Even if you're not working, even if you're retired or you don't have a job right now, it's like there's somebody who has a position of power and authority, and there could be difficulty coming up around that relationship or that connection during this time. This is something where whatever the full vantage point of the situation is not available to you right now. So you're not going to see the whole picture, and wherever you think this is headed, it's not headed in that direction. And so that first and foremost is the most important thing to make note of. This is also a time for you to empower yourself by purging and letting go of those connections that are truly toxic when it comes to your career, when it comes to your relationship with people in positions of authority, when it comes to your work or your workplace, when it comes to your business, when it comes to business connections and partnerships. Whatever is toxic in those areas, let it go. Detox your career, detox your public image, detox your connections with those types of people. And by doing that, you're going to connect to your roots. You're going to have much more satisfaction on different levels, and that'll come up a lot more during the lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks' time. This is also just going to be a major change for you across the board in all areas of life, and it's going to feel challenging for you. It's going to feel like everything is being turned on its head. Everything is being shaken up all of a sudden, especially if you're Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, anywhere from 0 to 20 degrees, which is most of you. You're going to be feeling this in a very crunchy, sort of all over the place way. You're going to have a lot of signs, a lot of synchronicities, a lot of eerie, strange energy where it's like, have I been here before? Is this deja vu, or is this like I've dreamt this, or I've actually done this in the past? You're going to have those signs, those messages, those odd experiences that tell you that something beyond the normal is going on as you're going through these changes. And so keep an eye out for those, because those are definitely markers that are trying to tell you something. But you could have changes personally, you could have changes career-wise, you could have changes with your family, your home, you could move, you could have changes with your relationships, all of it. So this is a big time for Aquarius. For Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for Pisces, this energy here with the new moon, with the partial solar eclipse in Scorpio, is happening in your 9th house. And lucky Pisces, this is hitting you pretty nicely. As I mentioned at the start of the video, you know, Pisces and Cancer, if you have planets there, if you have your Sun, Moon, or Rising there especially, you're going to have a more positive, gentle energy of change that comes out of this eclipse. And especially if you're a Pisces, anywhere from 0 to 20 degrees, really, you're going to be feeling this the most. This could be old opportunities that come back around for you to connect with land or foreign countries or travel or experiences even that were really big for you, like a big adventure that taught you something, that helped you to acquire wisdom from your previous lifetime experience. And so you might be going back to a place that you visited in this lifetime that was very meaningful to you, or you could be visiting a new place, but it feels so familiar, it feels so important, it feels so synchronistic, it feels just strange in some way, like something is going on here and this is bigger than what I understand. This is also a time where you might be revisiting an old educational pursuit. Just know that in either case, it might not, it's not all the way supported in terms of like the full manifestation, the full benefits of everything that you could achieve in that area. However, good things will happen. So it's kind of like, if you let go of what you need to let go of, so if you let go of an old mindset, if you let go of an old perspective on reality, if you let go of an old belief or paradigm that is holding you back from really embracing this knowledge from your past, then this is going to be really fruitful for you. But there's probably going to be some sort of mental blockage, or even a blockage through another person. Like maybe your teacher is the blockage. That could be it with Venus too. Like it's that other person, it's somebody else or a fellow student or someone that you're traveling with. That's the blockage that's not allowing you to have the full spectrum of the experience, but you're still having the experience and you're still having a really wonderful time, hopefully. And this could also be, you know, an opportunity that comes to you to connect with a new teacher or to teach something that you've learned from the past. And so all of this is possible. It could also be you cutting ties with like a religious viewpoint or your religious upbringing in some way, or something along those lines too. And that could feel very freeing and very liberating, and it'll help align you better with your integrity. And so that's also wonderful. I would say for Pisces, yeah, overall, this is not a bad energy. And even the eclipse that's happening, the total lunar eclipse in 2 weeks, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks, that is not the worst energy either. So lucky Pisces during this eclipse season. Hopefully it works out really well for you. Okay, and so with that all being said, let's get into the overview of the total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. This is going to be happening in 2 weeks on November 8th. I'll talk about it then, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also share this video that we just did with your friends if you feel like they could benefit from the information, because a lot of people are going to be going through some changes right now, and so you definitely want to do that. Like the thing, all of that. Also, let me know in the comment section. This is something that I always want to ask you to do and I always forget. Let me know in the comment section how this eclipse is playing out for you. How are you feeling? What's going on for you? We learn so much through other people's experiences with the astrology, and I want to learn from you. So definitely let me know how you're feeling. It helps me improve my forecast and my skills as an astrologer, and it's always just good to check in and to maybe vent a little bit about the craziness of the eclipses. So definitely do that. But this total lunar eclipse in Scorpio is actually going to be conjunct Venus and Mercury. It's going to be in a T-square with Saturn, and it's also going to be in a conjunction with Uranus. So this is going to be a big one with a lot of change. I would say more financial change in the mix, a lot of really chaotic communication going on, I would say, in terms of the media and just what we're experiencing as a whole. The path for this current eclipse that's happening for this solar return, this solar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio is actually over Russia and Europe and, parts of the Middle East. And so, that's where it's going to be manifesting the most strongly, not always exactly on the day of the eclipse, within that window, and also a few months out as well. The same thing with this total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. This path is actually over the US, Russia, and Asia mostly. And so you can kind of see already that energy, and you can kind of infer what that might mean. And so this is a disruptive energy. Both of these energies do indicate potential financial disruptions, potential issues with agreements, negotiations, things like that, across the board with like the bigger picture of things and on an individual level. But this second eclipse is going to be the massive big change. It's going to be like things are going to change forever. Like we're not going to be able to go back to the way things were in our personal lives or on a collective level after this eclipse energy. And that could be a really good thing for some people. It's kind of like you might need to just jump all in and not look back. And the change that might happen for a lot of people could be very, very positive, but there are going to be some challenges. And so we will talk about all of that in 2 weeks' time. Again, hit that subscribe button and I will see you then. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, bye everyone.